got a few. We're going last minute here.
Yeah.
That works good. When life gives you lemonade, you make lemons out of it, right? So that's how
I do like some lemonade. For
Me too.
everybody out there, when you're drinking lemonade, do you frequently get canker sores? I feel like it's almost 90% of the time when I drink lemonade, I get a canker sore.
You drink lemonade. Like maybe if you drink too much of it and you get like citrus sores or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just, I don't know
Are you
if it's
trying
my
to adjust
pH or something like that.
your clarity on your camera now? I can tell.
Yeah.
You like leaned forward and made it all fuzzy, and now you're freaking out. It is a
It
little
looks
fuzzy,
good.
but you're fine.
It's okay.
Maybe you're like
So,
Bigfoot. It's like Mitch Hedberg says, is that maybe Bigfoot just is blurry, and he's just one big blurry monster, and that's actually more scary that we can't get a clear picture of him.
It's a great point. Well, guys, we're on a buck 22
I think
today, I believe, right? Yeah, I think we're
That
on a buck
seems right.
22.
Yeah.
That feels right. It feels right.
It feels right.
Yeah.
I liked
So
last week that it was a palindrome.
I like palindromes as well. I do. But more importantly, I like doing testing normal. So that works out fantastic.
It's fun. We get to hang out. Everyone else gets to watch us. Think that we're super mad at each other because we're just intense people.
Dude, I had a fun conversation with somebody this what is it today? So I guess this past week. It wouldn't be this week, but it's this past week. And we were talking about something, and we ended up talking about like, social circles and friends and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I actually am proud of the fact that I am able to have friendships with people specifically that I know I have different opinions, like politically, socially, philosophically, just about different things. But like, I really value that. And I think that's a really, really important thing that people should strive towards. And unfortunately, it's not a very commonplace thing that you would see in most environments because people haven't learned how to feel comfortable and enjoy and appreciate those people in those different areas.
I think we unlearned it as a society. And I would say even specifically to us, we talk on here about things that we might disagree with, but that's kind of the point. Largely, most things were like, yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that. I'm totally with you on that. Like 99.9999%. We just talk about the 0.1% that we're off by like this much. Like, and this, what's interesting is that much causes a clash or can give off a perceived clash.
Yeah.
And it has clashed before, but it's not like I want to punch you in the face or anything like that.
But that's actually a really good point, Jordan, is that a lot of people will choose specifically if there's those degrees of disparity within, if it's political, if it's philosophical, if it's religious, if it's social, and there's variation within those areas, there's 0 degrees of tolerance. That's in a lot of cases for those.
It's just those sticking points. They're like, well, on this, it's like I've seen people post, if you voted for Trump, just unfriend me now. I'm like, whoa. I was like, there can't be someone in the middle. Like that seems odd. Like maybe there was something that they're like, well, they both suck. So I'll go for this one because in these areas that I value, it works the most. And like, but the rest of it, and most people will come back and say, yeah, but do you see all the bad things he does? I'm like, all right, there's a laptop I know about that talks about some bad things that guy you voted for did some bad things too.
Yeah, both sides.
So
both sides for sure.
Let's just put that aside for a second. No one's perfect, and most of the people in political scenes have done really terrible things, and should stop.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So,
so guys, we're starting off. We're mixing it up again. We're going to start off with the TILs, and then end it with the showers.
I don't agree.
Oh, really? Well, too bad.
Too bad. We already talked about it. It's on the schedule. It's in that
we
order. Actually, it's not.
It's
Yours are still backwards again. Just throwing that out there.
I know. It's not in our links. That's different. That's just notes.
He does them one way or the other, guys, and then it kind of just like, he says it's not a big deal, but it will end up like steering the show the wrong way. So me pointing it out is kind of like a poke the bear, but also like a BT dubs, don't read the wrong spot on your notes.
Very good point.
You go first, because you got two.
So first TIL. Today I learned that the world's largest spider its leg span can reach up to 1 foot. And it's called the giant huntsman spider.
Are those ones from Afghanistan that you see?
That's a great question. I'll young Jamie that real quick while you read your TIL. But that's a pretty,
because remember those like the camel
thing.
Spiders or whatever they were, and the guys,
those pictures,
they're showing those spiders, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's from Alien, or like what was that? What was Super Troop?
So the giant huntsman spider, right? Yeah. Oh no, there was a
what was
Starship Troopers?
Starship Troopers, yes, where they would like spear him, and they're like medic, like, and they come put their guy's arm back on.
The giant huntsman spider is from Southeast Asia. The location is Laos.
Laos. Maybe that's what that means. Laos, get rid of the giant spiders.
Oh my God.
I feel like that's what it
means. Wide spider. Oh.
No, that's not a spider anymore, is it? Like, spider's supposed to be creepy crawly. Once it's a foot across, it is an attack crab. That's what that is.
It belongs specifically on the Harry Potter universe.
Specifically,
after it's that size.
I'm super shocked that we didn't find out it comes from Australia, because they've got that kind of stuff.
True.
Like,
true. Good point.
They're like the Narnia of the world. Like, they've just got. They're like, no one else has hippie hoppy things, but them kangaroos. Like, and you know what I mean? Like, just.
That's true.
Koala bears.
Hit me with your TIL. What you got?
TIL. In 1975. Elvis went to see a movie with his girlfriend, and he was spotted by fans, and they went crazy. His girlfriend walked up and pranked the fans, saying to Elvis, "Charlie, you're not using that Elvis bit again, are you? Come on. You're not telling these people that you're Elvis again, are you?" And the fans left.
What? Oh my gosh.
But it makes you think, though. There's a lot of Elvis impersonators now, and it was such a big thing. I mean, it's kind of like the Michael Jackson of that time, right? Like, that big around the world. Well, not quite. I think Michael Jackson took it to a whole other level. But, like, that's funny that they tricked
It's kind of genius, though. It's kind of genius.
I do have a friend that got
reverse psychology,
like
basically.
Some like high school girls that thought he was from some show, and he was like, "I'm not that guy," and they're like, "Shut up, you are. Can we get a picture with you?" And he's like, "I'm not from that show. It's not me."
It's like, sure.
And finally just took the selfie with him. Yeah. And he was like, I didn't even know. I had to look up who it was. And he's like, I didn't think I looked like him, but like, whatever. Like,
that's so funny. Yeah. I get that a lot too. I don't know why. Like, it's one of the Hemsworth brothers, Chris, I think his name, or something like that. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know how. I don't see it, but I mean, whatever. It is what it is. I don't know. I think it's more of the size. We have the same body frame.
Probably. Yeah. Muscle mass. That's probably what it is. Like BMI.
Yeah.
You're like,
BMI index.
Like, if you were on a BMI index chart, probably your pictures would be next to each other, right? Like,
yes.
The comparison charts.
Yeah. I get it. And there's kind of like that godlike, complex. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. And you like hammers.
Dude, I freaking love hammers. Yep. I love Home Depot. I'll tell you what, you can't get me out of Home Depot. You cannot get me out of Home Depot. I literally if I could go to Home Depot every day, I would.
What if Chris Hemsworth went to Home Depot and just played with people's heads with hammers? Like, just like put one on the ground.
Started throwing hammers.
Like, just glued a hammer to the ground. He's like, guys.
This is my hammer. Are you worthy? All right, my last TIL. On the same lines of spiders. Today I learned that spiders eat 400 to 800 million tons of insects every year.
Surely not one spider.
Well, specifically the giant huntsman spiders.
Can you imagine if each spider ate that much?
Well, they'd be eating us then.
It's true. That's what I was going to say. I was going to go on for like that someone set in the box.
But also, I think that number that they gave, that statistic between 400 and 800 million tons, when there's that much of a disparity of 400, so when there's a 400 million ton disparity and they're saying it eats 400 million tons each year, that makes me have a little bit of speculation as far as their numbers they're getting.
Maybe it's like fluctuating on the spider population for that year based on weather.
Yeah, there you go. Freaking.
Also, it makes me wonder. Little do we
Steve
know
Irwin
about spiders.
Right there.
Like, some kid was like, "Hey, how much do these things eat?" And like, I don't know, probably between 400 and 800 million tons. And the kid's like, done.
Done. Wikipedia. Set.
Yeah, if you go check it later and it changes, it's between 500 and 1,000.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Oh man. So this week, dude, I'm just gonna start us off with something that's been kind of pressing on my mind and attention. And I have kind of a foreign affairs kind of mindset. Like when something's happening geopolitically outside of the U.S.,
I thought you were going to go domestic first here, because there was something you texted me a lot about that I do want to talk about that that you haven't got into yet. So I'm just I'm fine. Whatever direction you want to take it. I'm a little shocked you started.
Yeah, we'll go wide. We'll go wide.
We'll go macro.
We'll go
wide.
Micro. Perfect. Love it. Freaking love it. Are you paying attention what's going on in Poland lately? In Belarus?
Well, I was there last week.
Bonanas.
I have not.
So it's pretty wild. So do you remember the airlines that there was a journalist on an airplane, and the airplane was flying over Belarus, and the Belarus government told the airline or the airplane that they had to land because there was a bomb threat for the plane. And essentially there was no bomb threat, but the Belarus government went in and then captured a journalist that was on that flight because he had been speaking badly about the president of Belarus, and they want to put him in their gulags.
I do remember that. Yes.
Right.
We talked about it.
So, Belarus has been receiving tons of negative press, and basically he's kind of like the only outside of North Korea and kind of China, but even more blatant with Belarus. He's kind of the only like basically purely obvious like dictator country state outside of, less covert or more covert country states, right? Like it's just blatantly obvious the way he's kind of manhandling and persecuting and killing individuals that don't agree with him.
Okay.
And so the EU has been putting a lot of sanctions on Belarus recently. Okay. Now, what's interesting about Belarus borders Poland, part of the EU. And what's been happening because of the pressure the EU has been placing on Belarus, the president has been telling refugees from south of their border, Belarus border, saying, hey, refugees, you guys are welcome to come through Belarus and plant your flags and start importing or traveling through our land to get into Poland, to then to get into Germany or to get into the EU, basically saying like you can do a form of migration on the mass scale, essentially.
Really?
And yes. And he's using, which is what's super sad about this, he's basically using vulnerable migrants as a tactic to basically have like a covert war with the EU by sending these individuals into Poland, and Poland started getting overwhelmed and saying, hey, we can't handle all these people. What are you doing? And now they've started to like try to figure out how they can block their borders up. And there's like a significant, like basically human crisis that's taking place right now, because all of these displaced refugees, but also individuals that just wanted to leave certain parts of the Middle East, are now, specifically Iraq, are basically like just sitting on the border. Like 4,000 plus migrants are just sitting on the border of Belarus and Poland. And in that area specifically, like the climate is horrible. It's super cold. It's freezing wet. It's freezing. And there's essentially Belarus can't support them. Belarus can't give them food or provisions. And the Polish government saying, hey, we can't either, and you're the ones that are forcing these individuals on us. You need to be responsible for them. And so like people are like basically kind of like
similar situation,
forming a little mini. But what's different about it is this specifically government is telling people, hey, come to us, and we're going to send you to Poland.
Yeah, I'm just like, when it comes to Mexico, like they just don't stop people coming in to then just go up to our border. So it's different, but in a sense, it's kind of the same. It's like because they're allowing people to basically come in and they don't care and they don't want them there either. They want them to come through to us. Then the burden's on us. Like, look, like, you know.
But what's fascinating about this, and I don't know, maybe there has been times in history where this has been a tactic towards overwhelming another sovereign state. But it's fascinating to me to see one government take individuals from another country to try to overwhelm another state.
Maybe it's a tactic.
It's using individuals as ammunition, which is it affects that countries in multiple ways, I guess, right?
But I mean, I guess I would go back to say there's a lot of people that speculate that's what could be going on with ours too, is that people are being used as kind of a weapon to distract and divide and cause disruption.
By other countries, you think?
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe, but I guess if we knew there was specifically like documentation of that, this is just
I'm just saying it's speculation. Like, it would be a good way to do it. And if they don't stop it or do anything to stop doing it, it's like if we had an issue of our people leaving the border, like it would be on us, especially if we were letting people say Canadians wanted to flee there and they want to go to Mexico. It'd be on us to like not let them pile up at our border between us and Mexico. So when you put it that way, it's like, oh yeah, totally. We wouldn't ever do that. I was like, okay, well then why do you expect it to happen the other direction? Like, why do you expect like other countries to put up with it like this? It's sad that people are caught in the middle, but it's like, neither one of us could afford just going and picking up every homeless person and supporting them, right? But it would be amazing if you could help people in that way. But if you do, then it brings everybody down to an extent. So there's like an element of generosity that works, and there's an element of generosity that just pushes people down further. And what's also fascinating
about this situation is Belarus is one of the main, they have a lot of leverage as well, because they're one of the main pipelines that provide gas from Russia into the EU. So from Belarus, it goes to like Poland, Austria, Switzerland, Germany. It kind of branches off and splinters off from Belarus specifically. There's two other gas lines.
Oil, doesn't
it? Yeah, and actually, I'm not 100% sure if it was oil or natural gas. It's natural gas. That's what it is. It's natural gas lines. But in particular, they're at a pivotal time because it's so cold right now. Like they're getting close to wintertime, right? Or they're in wintertime. So anyways, all that stuff, geopolitical drama, it's going on. It's going deep. Belarus, look out.
I think the major takeaway is like what we go through, even as one of the bigger and more wealthy nations, isn't much different than others. There's people that suffer in the middle of it, and it's sad. There's not really a perfect answer, like, at all. The one that results in like not utter collapse. You know what I mean? Like, say we took everyone in from the world. Like, if you just take that to the nth degree, if any country did that, they're done. Like, it's not going to last. And the people that work really hard are going to get really frustrated and probably leave or move on to something else, and it's going to make it worse. And it's like, I understand like the frustrations that people share when it comes to different social issues and whatnot, but like the answer isn't utter chaos, because that doesn't give you what you're looking for either. And so you can't just switch it all at once, or else you're going to cause utter chaos. And you can't just get rid of it to swap it for something else, because that causes utter chaos. So there has to be some cooperation and some working amongst parties to make it work. I don't know. It's just, when I look at that stuff, it's so frustrating, because to make it change, it's I heard a story about a pastor that came to a church, and if anyone has been in a church, you know that there's always some weird frustrations, and a lot of them revolve around the positioning of the piano, at least in old churches. And there was a piano that the pastor before had wanted to move, and that pastor left and came back like 10 years later, and the piano had moved to where he wanted it, and he was so frustrated that it was in the way, and he asked the new guy, he's like, "What'd you do?" And he goes, "I moved it 1 inch at a time." And I think people need to understand, like, that's why our government's gridlocked. That's because then it only lets it move a little bit, and that provides some protection in it, in a sense.
Yeah. So. Titration, slow burn stuff kind of causes just as much damage sometimes as quick changes too.
Yeah. Speaking of geopolitical, I don't have a lot of detail on this because I'd started to watch this video. A friend sent it to me. He's like, "This is really good." But something that came out of it is some stuff that I had been reading on and had heard, and we've all heard that there's this thing going around the world right now that has kept everyone home. And just avoid saying the words or whatever because YouTube likes to like block people for even saying it. But now we've got people that there's an article, and I'll link the video and people can go watch it or whatever. And there's an article that he's reading, and now he said specifically in this video is that you have to understand that this article was allowed to be published in communist China, which means it went through their media and was allowed to be read by people, which means they filtered it and said what they wanted to say. And basically in it, it blames the United States for having released said problem that got us all locked up in our homes by all the governments, and has now started pitting their people against the American people for having been the cause of that. And I find I find that interesting that, like, you know, our last commander-in-chief was saying that on his way out, like, we should hold them responsible because we know this has come from there, and now we know that there's pretty good proof that it had. Wherever you stand on any of the stuff that's going on in our country now because of it, it's pretty well known that that's a pretty good cause. My glasses are like nuts.
So,
at least my camera.
So China in particular had been at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm just going to say the pandemic. They specifically were pushing the agenda that the virus was released during the joint military, not trials, military, what would you call them? Training, task force that were taking place amongst several nations, and it was actually in that region of China, in or around that region of China.
Right.
And they were saying like, hey, no, U.S. troops brought this virus to us, released it, and now they are saying that we're responsible for it. But really, it's a covert United States, action. Now, granted, I don't have all the data. I don't have all the information. U.S. has done some crazy crap, man. We've done some squirrely stuff. But all that to be said, both sides of the parties are saying very kind of not condemning, but whatever you would say, not taking responsibility on either side.
Yeah, to me, my whole point was it kind of goes to say the same thing as what we were talking about before, is that they're pitting the people against the people. And whether or not we talk about China, and I always say it every single time here, we're not talking about the general population of China. Those people are awesome. Like, generally speaking, those are the same people as us. They're human beings, right? It's the government that we're talking about that is controlling and doing. It's the Evergrande issue, the housing issue, all the problems that they're causing, that they're monetary things, now the money that they owe the United States, all that kind of stuff. And then they would go to divide the people. And I've told people this before, like, whether you agree with me or not, whether you think that you should vote for, blue, red, that you should be part of BLM, that you should be not part of BLM, that you hate, the 3%ers, or you like whatever. You pick whatever group that you think is crazy, because there's a lot of them on both sides. If all those people could find common ground, it's over. Like, and if we could, like, and we have it. We have common ground in that we want to live lives, and most of us, at least predominant amount of us, want to live lives and just choose to do what we want to do and not be bothered, right? Like, just let me live. If I don't hurt you and you don't hurt me, we're good. Like, anyway, Amador said he believes that Chinese tried to change the story and blame the U.S. early on in order to take away people really looking at them to see where they messed up. Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
like that's what was going on.
that's pretty obvious in that area.
That's a succinct way of putting it.
So the last thing I have about on the like a geopolitical level of things, I thought this was pretty cool from a political standpoint, and this is something that I've advocated for multiple times, I believe, on this podcast and just in conversations. The British Parliament is proposing, and they're actually getting into stage of potentially bringing this into law, where they will ban people within Parliament. If you've served as a representative within Parliament, you will not be allowed to be a paid advisor for Parliament after that job, after you've been in Parliament. So kind of like what we have right now, we have congressmen that there's some conflict of interest because they have potentially they don't get paid while they're in Congress, right? But they say get a lobbyist come to them, and the lobbyist says, hey, listen, we're going to give you this 7-figure job as soon as you get out if you pass this bill. So there's some potential for abuse and or not necessarily looking in the best interest of individuals or their people they're representing. So in this situation, there's certain things. Basically, they're creating laws that protect the potential, the high potential, I believe, that's taking place in the United States as well, for lobbyist influence and abuse of basically outside money influence that could be affecting their votes currently.
Yeah, I think that's important. There's some. Yeah. Also, when I hear Parliament, I just think they're having a potluck. Like, it seems like such a weird word. Like, we don't use that. Maybe they think that when we say Congress.
Right.
But I feel like that's kind of a scary thing at the same time, because I would be an advocate for people learning from and gaining wisdom from people who have been in before. I think that's a healthy thing. I think that I don't think that all lobbyists are bad, just like I don't think all lawyers are bad. They have a high propensity for it, but I don't think they're all bad. Like there's a reason why we have stigma around used car salesmen and lawyers and politicians. And it's not our fault. But there are good ones. There are some people who have held their own and do good things. And I think sometimes limiting those things, to me, it seems a little bit scary in the sense that it could be the people who are in there trying to develop a way to maintain control in some way, because I could see it causing a balance of power in the wrong direction for the people. Because really what needs to be happen is that we don't need to limit.
So how do you see it being, how would it cause a power of balance negatively for the people by limiting?
Because sometimes those lobbies are supporting financial people groups, so that they don't have to necessarily represent.
So it's not getting rid of lobbyists, right?
It's the congressman there. But imagine if there was a good, let's use our politics for example, because I don't know how Parliament works, but like if you had a congressman that they served their term, they don't want to do that anymore, but they understand how it works, and so they could be a resource to help groups that maybe they supported during their time, to go and work with them to put up laws and help with those types of things.
This doesn't prevent them from doing that, but it prevents them from having a financial incentive of doing that. So it can't be that's great. I'd say if you're willing and you have the desire to help them
to do it anymore.
Right. So you can't have a paid directorship or consultancy pertaining to consulting with Parliament.
I think that limits people, because you have to the Congress.
Well, I think you're right. It does.
The congressman is still a citizen, so you're limiting a citizen. From doing
it. But it's in the same way, and I think that's okay. I think if you have a degree of, you're going to have a give and take, right? You can't make it work perfectly for either way. If you want to try to limit the abuse of outside influence on a person that's making votes, then you have to have a degree of limiting the financial impact to themselves personally. That's why we have laws in the United States, as far as like you have to have some type of, you have to make certain claims, who you're invested in and what your finances are before you even get into certain areas of Congress, right?
Yeah, there's already limitations.
I think it's a good protection.
There. So as Amador brought up a good point, and I should have just said this in the beginning, like his father-in-law, my uncle, he was a state representative, served his terms, did a great job, I believe. I was pretty young when he did it. I door knocked for him. So you want to, like, I went politically door to door and solicited votes for him. Wasn't even in state, just a little kid, child labor. But we thought it was great. It was fun. And now he's a lobbyist. But they do have limitations. I talk to them about all the time, like the different limitations that they have. It's mostly on the Congress people who are serving at the time, so there isn't a conflict for them, which I think that's where it should be limited more than with the companies. I think where the companies should be limited is, I don't think Facebook should be giving $400 million to fund doing votes. Like, I think that should be limited. I don't think it should be giving hundreds of millions of dollars towards a campaign.
And going away a little bit from that, I mean, I still think there's a conflict of interest there, being a lobbyist, if there was promises made while you were in Congress.
If there was promises made while you're in there, but I think there are rules for that. And
but I mean, you could get around that so easy.
You could,
and that's
just like,
I feel like it's like a disservice to the people you're representing.
There are rules, and so there's an element of trust in a free society, and so it's like, you're not supposed to drink and drive, but we all know everyone. Like, there are people that do. I didn't say everyone. Sorry.
wait. Were you gonna say we all know everyone?
We all know everyone does it. Okay. No, we had this discussion tonight, right? So, like, it used to be like, he had a few too many, and now it's like, it's a pretty big deal, and I think it should be a pretty big deal. But we don't go much.
I think this is also why it's important, though. This is also why it's important. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
But this is also why it's important. As we are seeing companies become more and more powerful, as we're seeing organizations basically start to have kind of like mini governments within our country, it seems like, their ability to influence congressmen and then incentivize them, saying post their current, run. I think we have to have, potentially, because of there's changes in our society and changes in the way that governments are influenced by companies, we then also have to maybe potentially look at the ramifications and the protections of those individuals that are now representing us.
I think it's more important while they're in there, for sure. And so, like, making deals for, like, when they get out, like, maybe, like, I guess it's one of those things where, like, I trust that the person coming towards me is not drinking. It doesn't mean that they're not.
You trust everybody within government, though?
No, I don't. Not at all. And I don't trust everyone on the road, but it's like, because I don't want to have more and more and more laws imposed to try to make that happen that then hurt people that don't ever break the rule. I'm not willing to go that far, because I think that
I get that.
You get too many rules, and it gets so diluted that you get these people that just, like, try to find a way to get around it. It's like the same thing with our tax code.
That's the hard part, though, with time and with the progression of society, is as we encounter new situations like we have with technology, right? We have tech companies now that are basically, acting like mini governments and in some ways affecting free speech. So we have to kind of have ways, and that's why we have amendments, right? We have amendments to our Constitution because new things come up, new things in society. I think that new laws will continue to have to be implemented depending on where we go in society.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want there to be more restrictions, but I also think we have to be careful with
I think it's
recognizing those things.
It's not a bad discussion. I'm just sharing my opinion as I see it now. Peter Maddox.
Oh, Peter.
Shout out to
Peter
you.
Maddox. Yeah, that's my buddy.
I don't think I ever put up
hey, buddy.
This is me showing that I don't just put up comments from people I know. You can comment whenever you want.
Yeah.
You can even tell me you hate me. He says, Peter. I think it's a great idea, for going with what you said, for things that people truly are passionate about, doing it pro bono is not a barrier. Former congressperson truly cares about an issue. Why should not getting paid hold you back from offering help? I don't think it always should. But that's a good point. But it's a lot of time. I just know because I've had family who have done it. It is a lot of time. And if you're still in a career and you still want to do it, I mean, we all, like, to some degree, we get paid, or we should get paid for what we love to do. Not everyone does. But, like, I work in IT. It's like, I always joke, like, people kind of get mad that I have fun all the time because I'm just doing what I would do if I wasn't getting paid for it anyway. But it doesn't make me feel bad that I get paid to do the thing that I'm good at, right?
I think what Peter says, I would agree with him. I think there's there's a higher upside than there is a downside to implementing that rule as far as for the safety of the country. One thing that I don't understand, and maybe someone out there that's listening does understand this concept, I have never understood how it was ever considered a good idea to allow corporations to be considered individuals pertaining to funding and
it seems
like
weird
donations.
I don't know that. I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of that. I do know that there are some restrictions in other places where it has to be spread out. Like they can only be a percentage of what someone brings in for campaign money. That's a completely different.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Because
I'm saying like I think in Canada they have to do that, and there are some states for state positions that have to do that. But it gets pretty ridiculous. Like if you go look in Portland, for instance, there was a school board position last year, unpaid elected position, mind you, that raised $100,000 to run for that position in Portland. That's ridiculous.
Wow.
So that's a lot.
So that was like sponsored. Basically, they had individuals.
Right.
Yeah. The thing with companies in particular. Yeah, and we've dabbled in this conversation. We've dabbled in that
a lot. I would say my opinion doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong. My opinion is I don't think there's a higher upside to more restriction. But I do think I would surmise that there are probably some restrictions on like payouts and whatnot afterwards. If they're just doing it as a job afterwards because they like what they do and they like to be in that scene and they're getting paid to do it, there's a lot of nonprofits where people get paid because their time is their income, their livelihood. So it's not like they're like, not all of them.
Yeah, there's a whole
millions and millions of dollars.
There's a whole lot of issues with nonprofits and compensation that some nonprofits receive that
that's the thing is, but
I'm not making the rules, but I feel like
would you get rid of all nonprofits because some are bad? Like, I don't think that's smart.
Well, I would get rid of, I think that there does need to be a change in the way a nonprofit is classified and taxed if individuals are getting paid exorbitant amounts within that nonprofit. I've seen a lot of abuse, I think, within nonprofits personally because of the exemptions they receive. So that's a whole nother issue. I guess I would say that's
perception without being in it. I know just about probably as much as you do. I don't.
Well,
know.
I'm in one.
So
I see it.
Yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying, but like, yeah, I think there are some abuses. But like you said, that's a totally different topic.
Yeah.
So I'm all for no income tax and just going to a sales or flat tax.
Fascinating.
Because then you don't have to deal with that at all. So
flat tax. Yes, I am.
Hey, we started with property tax, guys. We only got income tax because of the war. So
yeah, I think a flat tax is the most equitable approach to certain areas of individuals with higher wealth and lower wealth, because you can't avoid the tax in that situation. If you buy a $10 million house, you're going to have a higher tax than if you have a $200,000 house. If you're buying Ferraris, Lamborghinis, you're buying all these things that show your wealth, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to be taxed on that. You can't avoid the tax.
The place I work for, so in 2008 when that crashed, they did it's pretty common for businesses to do this, and this is where people just don't understand. There's two things I'd like to share on this whole equitable thing, because I think that people misunderstand these words. Also, we've remade what they are. Is that when they went through that period, they did these furlough days. So they're unelected days where you have to take unpaid a certain amount per month per year to save them money, right? Well, they said if you were above a certain amount of pay, you had to take 14 days. But if you're under a certain amount of pay, you only had to take 10 days. And so I was trying to explain to someone how that percentage of pay that those people take is exorbitantly higher, because now it would have been the same if you just gave everyone 10 days off and not paid. It's the same percent of time off. And they were like, I don't understand because it's more money. I'm like, it's a percent. It's like if you had, say you got paid $100 and I had to like break it down. They're like, I see what you're saying, but they still get paid more money. It's like, that doesn't mean that they have different like bills and budgets than you do. They just have a higher paying job than you do because they've excelled at what they do. Like we weren't even talking about like CEOs and stuff. It was just like basically like found myself in that category of having to take more days off, and like I'm having to take a higher percentage. Like I'm having to take, 14% off my pay versus 8%. And that's like a big difference.
Right. Yes.
The other thing I was going to say, and I don't like, I think you and I have talked about this, but I saw this video the other day and I wish I could find it. And this guy asks a room of, I think they're business majors. He said, how would you pay someone to make this logo? Pay them by hour or by the job? And they all said by the hour. And he said, really, what if you had a really talented artist that could make you a logo that was just as good and just in a shorter amount of time? Would you pay them the same amount that you would pay the person that took longer to do it? And they said no, because they didn't take as long. And he said, so you don't value their work.
Oh, interesting.
You only value the time. And they were like, whoa, hang on. And he's like, so think about that concept is if someone can work and do more valuable work in a shorter amount of time, you are now incentivizing them to take longer and do worse work. And so he's trying to teach them from an economic standpoint how they could hurt their business by not thinking about the value of a job versus how much time someone takes to do a job.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree with looking at the value, but I also think that there is a kind of almost a misconception with individuals that society is deemed as having a higher value than other individuals within a corporation or within a nonprofit in particular, and then assigning them a compensation that's grossly higher than others when their job may be significantly difficult and onerous, but it wouldn't function unless there was the hundreds of people below them doing extremely difficult. I think
the difference is like it's the amount of either risk or responsibility that's placed on a person that is totally valuable. In that, would that organization, maybe it wouldn't work with those 100, but would it work without that one? I guess that's my question. And who could you replace easier? The guy who's calling the shots and he's willing to sit down and take the responsibility for making those choices and then carrying them out. Now, I'm not saying everyone is willing to take responsibility and everything, and I'm not arguing that they should make, X amount of dollars or whatever. I'm just saying that's why those people in those positions are paid more, is because as much as you could say it wouldn't work without these 100 people, you could replace one of those 100 people probably in a few days, whereas it takes a long time to find someone who's willing to do that.
I think the situation to counter that is you look at situations where there's families that create nonprofit organizations, and then they give their daughter or their son.
Oh, yeah.
Now they're the CEO. But this is actually a really commonplace situation. They then give their family member or their friend, or they give individuals that they have, connection with. They're the CEO or the president or the vice president or one of the leading kind of individuals, executive team. They're getting $800,000 a year because that's a standard for a CEO pay. And really, they may have a team that's basically running this organization, but because they have the title of a CEO, and because that then makes it okay for them to be getting this exorbitant pay. I've seen situations within
I'm not disagreeing that there are some that do that. I guess my point is I'm not a big fan of when rules and laws hurt the people who are already doing a good job regardless of them. So
that's the case. I don't think in Congress, when we get back to Congress, I don't think they are doing a great job.
I don't think they are.
I think that there's
I think that there are some that could. But I think a lot of that doesn't have much to do with how we run it, but with how we either select them, and how we all communicate with each other about what's important. I
think how we select them. I agree. But I think if they know the ramifications potentially of once they're out of it, and the potential financial, maybe not necessarily the significant financial benefits that they boon from becoming a senator of, a state in particular or whatnot. I think if we change the way that either, this is a whole nother issue, term limits and all this different thing. I think that there needs to be a change to flush out the lack of accomplishments that we see consistently, and capability and even bipartisanship that we see within our or Congress. And I think there's little steps that need to be taken, and this is one of them potentially.
Yeah, I would argue, and this is a completely different topic, but I'll just make this statement. Our problem is not our elected officials, it's our unelected leaders that are in intelligence and are in these large corporations that are steering these things and not having to get elected. And so
I totally agree that's a big
so
part
while
of it too.
Maybe there's some people who, you know, afterwards go and get paid and do some shady stuff, you know, like whatever. I think far and above more is happening is we are being taken over by corporations because our country became a corporation.
The hard part with the unelected individuals that are making influential impacts within our country, that's the stuff that we can't really have clarity, or we can't have that much visibility in.
The presidents who have tried to
background in it
have gotten
JFK. Look out.
It was his statement like weeks prior, I would like to get rid of the CIA.
Did he say that?
It's what he wanted to do. He thought that there was something wrong.
Whoa.
And there's
I need to look more.
There's a whole conspiracy beyond that I'm not even going to get into because I don't know. I just don't know. I know that I've been to the place where he got shot and it was super eerie and creepy. And I don't know.
Peter did say something as far as he wanted.
Yeah,
if you want to look into a specific charity, that's charitynavigator.com. So that's a way to look at nonprofits if you're curious about it.
I would say there's a few charities that I would think are run amazing. And one of them, if you want to support something or someone or whatever, this is completely just off the cuff, whatever, but I've looked into them, is Charity Water. And this nonprofit was so blatantly honest with how they said they would do their funds that they said every dollar that you donate is going to go to help build a well. They'll tag it with a GPS and they will send you an email of the one that your money went to.
Oh, that's cool.
All over, like in Haiti and all these countries that can't get water and everything. They do all these different ways, and they will show you where your money went. They went so far as to do this that their business side of things is operated solely off of income from donations from businesses that solely just support their business operations. Any donation that comes in from like you or me or anyone that just gives to Charity Water goes straight to that. Including, get this, he goes, I didn't want to lie to people, so we pay the credit card fees out of their business budget. So if you'd use...
And those come from individual donations from other businesses?
Right, so if you pay through PayPal with, say, your debit card, or there's a 3% transaction fee and you wanted to give $10 and they take out, 30 cents or whatever it is, they take that out of that. Charity Water's business side puts that 30 cents back in so that you gave the full $10 and they eat the fee from their business operations.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I was just looking on their website of Charity Water and it shows every single well or piped system that they've put and you can on this map, and it says how many people specifically it's providing water to. Yep.
It's really cool.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's a really cool website. I like that. That's really nice. So Charity Water, guys, check them out if you want to give some donations.
So Peter said a good point on corpse pulling strings. If the problem is the corporation influence isn't addressing lobbying, a good place to start. I think it's a good place to start. I think that specifically my issue was just with being as heavy-handed on this as it is, maybe tracking it and saying, hey, if we find anything in this that's shady, like auditing that. Like if the people are really good at what they do and they want to keep going on in that and they can't keep going on their position, don't limit them from going and making money or whatever and continuing in that, but audit them, that's where I would be, instead of just saying like, sorry, you're done, you're out. I think we could potentially lose a lot of good talent. I'm willing to take the risk on that, for that. And that's just my opinion, and it could change tomorrow. Yeah. So
but it's a good conversation to have. It's a good conversation for people to start thinking about. And the change comes from conversation, right? And having, if you don't like or you don't agree with the conversation you're hearing, have a better conversation.
If you want to make the world a better place, just take a look at yourself.
Great point though, Peter. I liked it.
Batman.
Okay, so I think the last thing, Batman, love it. The last thing I just wanted to hit on tonight in particular was this link you had posted pertaining specifically towards YouTube. Kind of interesting to me.
Yeah.
They made an update recently, and I might see it more than other people because there's a lot of people I kind of follow in different areas. But they removed the dislike button on YouTube, but not for live videos, at least not yet. I noticed they removed it from YouTube, like
really?
Posted videos. But I don't think they removed it from live, because let's look at ours right now.
I see likes and dislikes on this one. I think it's coming.
Right.
So it's like I'm looking at a specific one that I had up. Oh, the one of the links for the China video or whatever. It has a like and dislike in it. So I think I know what's going on here.
Okay. So it's coming.
This is my guess. Since the administration change, just for fun, guys, before YouTube changes it, go and look at any video on the White House YouTube video page. Any of them. Just for fun. And it is insane how many dislikes they have.
The number of dislikes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So like you're saying each of their videos have significantly more dislikes than likes within the White House.
It's not even a fraction. Videos? It's like ridiculous how many dislikes there are to likes. And people have been saying since that started from day one that they think that YouTube is going to side with them and remove the dislike button. And it finally happened.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I'm checking it out now. I'm on the White House page here, pulling it up. The first, okay, so the first two videos, there's 3,000 dislikes and 200 likes.
How many views are
there? 14,000,
so
15,000.
Don't you think that's not a very big number for the White House? It's not any different if you go look at their Facebook one either. Look at any one of them.
Those ones were just from like a day or two ago. So let me see.
Right.
Those are like the most.
But if you scroll
ones.
back and look at the ones during the Trump administration, for instance, like love them or hate them, go look at the numbers for that. It's actually, they might have cleared them out. It would be 1 to 3 million within the first 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, but also you do have to recognize like he was an entertainer as well, right?
Not so like
he
much.
had.
This is the president. No, of the free
he was.
World.
That's what his job was.
But 14,000
before he was the president. Oh no! But I'm saying like there's also some acknowledgement the fact that Trump was much more entertaining to watch than Biden.
Hands
right?
down, I totally agree. If it was half the views, I wouldn't say anything. But 14,000 views for the president of the free world on YouTube, I'm sorry, something's wrong.
Yeah, that is interesting as far as YouTube goes. If they are specifically removing the dislike button for that reason, did they ever say anything? Did you hear anything as far as YouTube? What they said?
They just it's the link that I have is their blog explaining why they're going to do it. They've rumored it for a long time. I'm just throwing my guess out there because I've heard people say for a while this is insane. Like I've heard people talk about it that like the guy. Like they're like, this is nuts. Why are people doing this? I'm like, well,
but did you? An update to dislikes on YouTube. Yeah, I want to see why YouTube said.
I think
so. They're saying to ensure that YouTube promotes respectful interactions between viewers and creators. We to do interviews several.
But here's what I think people don't understand about likes and dislikes on YouTube. Every YouTube creator will say like smash the like button, yada yada yada. Like if you smash the dislike button on a live video, it gets them just as much positive for the producer as a like. All it does is reflect the like and dislike afterwards.
Guys, listen. If you dislike our video, please let us know if you're watching it on YouTube.
That's what people don't understand. They do it because they're like hating them.
Give us a thumbs up too on Facebook if you're watching too.
So what YouTube counts is interaction. Like that's what I don't think people understand. That's where the algorithm comes into play. So they count interaction. And then they will offer up videos. So,
well, the other thing is, this is why I heard a guy. He gave great commentary on this. What's his name? Marcus. He does all the tech videos. He does a lot of Apple.
Marquis Brownlee.
Yeah, love him.
Yeah,
great creator. And he made a great point as far as like I use YouTube like Wikipedia, basically. And I do a lot of home projects. Like I love doing projects, right? Probably too much so. And when I'm looking at a video to try to see if this is a good video for me, that I think like how to drain whatever, my radiator or something like that. I'll look up the vehicle and I'll type in the title, right?
Right.
And if I look down, I can see how many views there are, and I can see how many dislikes there are versus how many likes there are. And that kind of helps me kind of go quick through the videos and seeing like, is this worth my time to click on this and to
like
look at it?
It's like a star review on an Amazon product. Like,
right.
It helps you sort.
There's utility to it. And in that situation, it's kind of a disadvantage. I mean, granted, you can see how many people watched it. And if there's a lot of people that watched it, then that helps you kind of determine if it's something that might be a benefit.
Except but the dislikes see the analytics when they started or stopped watching it. That would help.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if there's like a bar for the percentage of people that watch the whole thing, maybe that would be maybe an option instead of the dislike too. But
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're getting a little bit later in the evening, so
yeah, we were going to talk about Rittenhouse, but we're not now. That's actually what Curtis and I talked about the most this week.
Yeah.
And I would just say, here's my, I think that prosecutor is trying to throw the case.
I think the whole thing's a squirrely case.
It's a squirrely mess.
The whole thing, even the defense though,
fact,
like
did I read you
I've
this?
never seen
did
the
I send you
defense
this?
have its few of rebuttals too. Like I feel like the defense didn't say anything barely the whole time.
So there was a video I watched from a defense attorney, and he had like 20, 30 years experience. And he said, of all the people he's ever seen on the stand, Kyle Rittenhouse was like the Oscar winner of witnesses. And that if he didn't know better, that the defense was trying to throw the case because they did such a horrible job. He's like, you couldn't do any worse than what they've done, regardless of whatever. Like,
well, and what's fascinating about that too is that from the limited experience I have with law, I've never heard an attorney say it's a good idea to have your defendant be put on the stand. Like it's almost never to their benefit. And so that seems kind of squirrely to me as well. The fact that the defense advocated for him to be put on the stand.
Right.
That kind of raised flags for me in the first place. Like that never seems, especially in a murder case, that never seems like a good idea.
It was super weird.
Potential.
He did a good job. The kid was great. The stuff
he was
that
impressively articulate.
Impressively, like it was like, wow, I would hang out with this kid, like
for an 18-year-old. Surprising.
But what was crazy is I saw this thing, and I'll post the link, people can go look at it, but that the woman that was comforting Kyle Rittenhouse's mom in the courthouse is actually was retained during the O.J. Simpson trial. Like she was a
comforter, a professional comforter.
I guess I don't understand. That's what's weird to me. There's so many strange things here.
Oh man,
she was.
Guys, look into that.
Yeah, she was the woman seen comforting his mom in the courthouse. Is actually a consultant who selected the perfect juror for O.J. Simpson's trial. And I'm like, what? Like, is this just a clickbait? Like they're trying to make it look at worse.
Yeah, is that true?
I don't know. I just look, guys. Sometimes we see things and we share them with you. It doesn't mean that we agree with them or understand them. We're just human beings. And these are our opinions that we choose to have for the moment. There was another thing I was going to show you that I was going to read, but I can't. It's not in our notes. It was a hilarious quote by Scott Adams, who I don't always agree with, but I still follow him because he's funny and, Dilbert.
Yeah. Amador, while you're looking at that, Amador made a great point, and this was baffling to me that the courthouse would allow this to actually happen too, that the prosecuting attorney was, using the gun in court kind of as a demonstration, and then he had his finger on the trigger, pointing it at individuals. I don't know, actually, I didn't see if he
I saw the videos of it, and I was like, he had his finger on the trigger.
I'm surprised that would be allowed to happen in a courtroom. Like that seems a very
especially
blatantly, like even like the guards that are in the room. Like yeah, exactly. Happen. Especially after Alec Baldwin.
So Scott Adams said this. He said, I hear commentators say that Kyle Rittenhouse was very, very dumb to bring a gun to a riot. And I can see their point. But for context, he was still the smartest guy at the riot.
Potentially. Yeah, it's an interesting.
Well, I mean, the guy was coming out with a gun.
The whole thing I wouldn't say is smart.
The guy was going to attack him with a gun. It's like,
yeah.
Well,
I don't know, man.
Maybe he shouldn't have, but it's a good thing he did, or else would we be having the trial in the other direction?
Well, we'll find out in a day or two what's going to happen, right? Your dad said the same thing actually just now. Yeah. Okay, so guys, this is the time of the night. I know, isn't that crazy? I looked down and I was like,
direct quote. Wow, that's
some quantum stuff going on there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, guys, this is your favorite part of the night.
Well,
hang on. End it with some shower thoughts.
One last thing about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing.
Mm-hmm.
I read a tweet. I'll link this to by a lady who was extremely humble. Like when it comes to political views, I would say reading through her stuff, her and I wouldn't agree. But this was a great thing that she wrote, and she posted an apology to Kyle Rittenhouse. And she said, "I'm sorry that I unfairly judged you and thought you were a racist. Full disclosure, watching parts of the trial were both humbling and horrifying. When this happened months ago, I was a sheep and I watched CNN." And she goes on to explain when she sat down and watched and saw the evidence, she was like, "I shouldn't have ever listened to what they were saying, this propaganda. I can't believe it." And she did this public apology for just her own thoughts about him. And I thought that was, there was people in the comments that were saying too.
So it's pretty clear, like, you think he's guilty then?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
100%. Just like the guy that took his girlfriend into the woods or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and that, let's be clear, Gabby Petito, or I can't remember, I'm probably saying the whole name wrong. That for sure was there was some drug cartel situation going down there. There's no way they found her boyfriend with just pure skeleton. And that you want to talk about some deep state funky stuff. That's some funky stuff.
My dad did say that, and this is where I hate this. I hate that, going back to influence on people and people fearing for their lives. He said that it's rumored that 2 jurors are holding out because of repercussions for what they might say or do. Like, goodness gracious. What?
Yeah.
Their job is to look at the evidence.
That's hopefully not the case.
And unbiasedly make a decision regardless. Like that's one of the freedoms we get in this country.
It's a bummer one.
Is a trial by jury of our peers.
Also, I think the whole thing about being a juror, I think the compensation needs to be significantly changed on that as well. But that's a personal soapbox thing. Yeah. Especially when you get to this level.
If it gets to this level, yeah. Pay the snot out of them.
Shower thoughts. Jordan, you have 4, so you go first, brother.
Look at that. Okay.
Yeah.
A world record on who's been dead the longest is one of the only world records 100% impossible to break.
Yeah, that's true. It takes a second to kind of think about that, but yeah, that's true. Okay, this one's going to take a little bit. This is actually kind of along the same lines. It takes a little bit to think about this, guys, okay? But if you're a mother and only have sons, you've broken a chain of women who've had daughters stretching all the way back basically to the start of humanity.
Well, just for you. They have other kids that are on
but like your chain that ended on you.
Yeah.
You broke that chain ended all the way from the beginning of time.
I guess that's where wild. I would disagree with you is that that's just a construct, and how can we know what they are?
Okay. Just a construct. Okay. All right. Yeah, freaking hippie. All right. Hit me.
No disrespect to anybody. You can do what you want. The trees cut down to make Jenga blocks are repeatedly forced to relive their own downfalls.
That whole sentence is like
butter.
It has so much meaning. Yeah.
Next time I play Jenga, I'm gonna cry when it ends. As if it was the first time.
But the nice thing about it is it keeps getting rebuilt, so that's nice.
It's true, and you're with your friends because I'm gonna guess it's not just Jenga. One tree.
Jenga. All right, so we have. Okay, this is interesting to me as well, and I think it's universal. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
You're wrong.
But we have collectively accepted the standard of tying shoelaces in a specific way, while there's so many other ways to do it as well. But it seems like as far as I'm aware, the standard universally is the bunny knot.
I know someone that does it differently. And they would say that everyone else's way is weird.
I don't know anybody that ties it other than the bunny knot, unless it's like boots. If it's like, like military or maybe no. I don't know, something else. But
they're left-handed, and their parents had a hard time teaching them, so they just taught themselves, and it's completely different. Well, it's not completely.
Does it end up, though, in a bunny knot?
Yes, but it's like crooked. It's like up and down.
Okay, but it still ends up in a bunny knot.
It does, but it doesn't like, you don't, there's a loop missing.
It looks up,
but it's, like, I think for that, it's just easy pull. Like you don't want to, and just then have to cut your shoes off every time. Like,
yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. All right, hit me.
But anyway, they do it completely different. It's the only person I know. So generally speaking, most of us have universally done it the other way. Although I figured out I tie my shoes left-handed so I could teach my left-handed son. That was weird.
There you go. Nice.
Most of us don't trust strangers, going back to this, yet we trust millions of them to do the right thing while driving on roads and public transports that we are using.
Oh, yeah. It's wild. Whenever I see somebody and I see their erratic behavior, and then I see that they go and get in a vehicle, it's shocking to me how many people are on the road that are not in complete control of their mental state. And it's terrifying to me.
I like how you just dodged a lot of things right there. You bobbed and weaved and ducked and jumped.
But it became clear. But it was clear. But it ended up being clear.
It is clear.
It did.
That you don't like old people. It's
clear. Very safe.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Here's
my last shower thought.
Oh, your last one, or I have one more?
How many more do you have?
I have one more.
You have one more? Okay. Who just went?
Oh, me. Yeah, you go.
Yeah, you just went. Yeah. All right, guys. So, this is something in college. I always talked about this being, I think, one of the most emasculating ways a man can look. Personally, this is my personal opinion. But so
the Chinese like getting rid of lady men thing.
No.
We haven't discussed that here. I don't even know how that would go.
No. It'd be interesting. Okay, so a shirtless guy wearing pants, right? So a shirtless guy wearing pants could be considered sexy to a lady, like if they're, sculpted or whatever, But a pantless guy wearing a shirt, it's kind of lame.
That's Winnie the Pooh.
That's Winnie the Pooh. I always talk about, like, one of the most emasculating things for a guy, I think, is to just be wearing a shirt and no pants and no underwear, and just be walking around like Winnie the Poohing it. It's uncomfortable, and it's very it just feels very awkward. Like, I don't think there's much more of an awkward appearing way a guy could appear. I think just completely naked is less awkward than a guy with a shirt and Winnie the Poohing it.
Going back to my comment and your comment on driving, my dad said there are amateur and professional drivers and remedial amateur drivers.
Very true. Definitely plenty of remedial, for sure. All right, hit me with your last one.
Okay. It is amazing that people will actually get disgusted finding a single human hair while eating the cooked ass end of an animal.
Very true. And the amount of things that have come out of that end specifically. Yeah, for sure. Hilarious.
I think it all comes down to we don't know where our food comes from.
Right. Just be quiet and eat it. Accept it. Crickets are good for you.
Crickets are good for you. I don't buy it.
Don't buy it. All right, guys. Well, listen, we appreciate you all. We really appreciate your input, your thoughts, and your conversations. It's super fun. And we hope that if you have time, you can hit that little subscribe button on Facebook, YouTube. Also, you can find us on iTunes. So if you want to listen to us later, that's usually where most people end up listening to us, is on iTunes later on, or Spotify.
Yep.
But we appreciate you all, and we're going to be on, should be next week, next Tuesday again.
Again? Is that our
Tuesdays looks like it might be the day.
Tuesday, or?
I think we have 2 more Tuesdays
before
December, before Diciembre.
Cool.
Easy, hombre. All right, guys. Peace out. Have a fantastic week. We appreciate y'all.
See ya.